Greetings, fellow Poltermasters, I'm Rowsell, and before I get into this is a spoiler video. I'm going to be talking about major plot lines, characters, and of course the last episode of this season. So if you have not watched Skylanders Academy Season 3, or in general, or you're planning on watching it, or you just started watching it and all that, don't watch this video. There is a timestamp right here, this little number right here, where you skip all the way to the end where I give my final rating of it, where there's no spoilers and I just say what I thought of the whole season. So, that's your warning. You now have 4 seconds to click out or click ahead. So that awkward moment when you were right at the beginning, but then you were wrong at the end. Greetings, fellow Poltermasters. Greetings, fellow Poltermasters. I am Rowsell, and it's once again time to crash the Skylands with this review of Skylanders Academy Season 3 here on the channel. I just finished watching it literally 2 minutes before I set up the camera. I split it up into 2 little segments, so I got up kind of early today and watched the first 5 episodes, then I watched the rest in one big binge. It was good. I can just straight up tell you right now that I enjoyed it. It was a really good season. It was because the good thing about this season was when they ended out Season 2, it could easily lead into Season 3, which that's what happened. It led into Season 3 really well. That was the first big thing about it. So, I like that. And right away, it happened that he said that Strike Horse's brother, and the first words out of the Skylanders band was like, wait, does that mean you're his uncle? And I'm like, oh my god, I was right! He's his uncle! Because I didn't believe that he was his father, which we'll go into more detail later on. So I was like, oh yeah, I got an uncle right away. So the first episode, so I have it on my screen. So if you see me looking down, I have the episodes up on my screen. So the first episode, Season 3, Episode 1, Power Struggle. This was the episode that started off with Chaos trying to find the map to the Archeans. And my one big quote about this, my one big thing was that they kept calling Archaea, like they kept saying Archeans differently. They said Archeans, I think it was? The Archeans or something like that. I didn't like how they said it differently, because in the games, they literally call it the Archeans. And I know the games aren't relevant to the show, but I mean, you can still pronounce everything correctly. This episode was fine. It was just a good starter episode. It had a little backstory to it. They kidnapped Kingpin and started torturing him, which was very interesting how they did it. And Kingpin was just kind of silly the whole episode. It was kind of a weird way to start off it. Like, they kidnapped Kingpin, they tortured him, and then Kingpin just disappears for the entire season. So it was weird that he knew where everything was. Supposedly they knew, like, oh, Kingpin knows where everything is, and he was fighting with a staff. Like, he's never used a staff before. It also didn't make Kingpin look very smart. That was the other thing. He was like getting tortured like crazy, and then out of nowhere, Spyro just comes up and does a little bit of flame thing on him. He's like, oh, I'll talk! So, it wasn't a great starter episode in my opinion, but I liked the opening when it was like, bam, here we go! I'm Chaos's uncle, I guess. And led into that. Cassandra, I know her name is Cassandra. I always like to call her Chaosandra for some reason. Cassandra, she started becoming friends with Stealth Elf, if I'm not mistaken. So that leads to a future episode. But no, it was a good way to start it off. On episode 2. I'm not trying to edit this one really at all. Next one's called The Truth Is In Here of episode 2. Spyro returned to the Academy at the end of Season 1 because Striker was like, hey, we're gonna go in there because I know the map is in the building somewhere. We gotta find it. So Spyro's gonna go back. He shows up completely dark because he's Dark Spyro now. And they're just like, oh, Spyro, you're back! And he was just like, oh, when I got into a fight, I got all stressed and, I can tell you right now that they made the Skylanders dumb this season. Like, I would have known, like, just saying it's like, oh, they made him, he's like, oh yeah, he just showed up black, and you're just like, oh, okay, perfect, he went from purple and orange to black, and they're just like, oh, cool, alright, cool, have fun, glad you're back. That was a weird episode. He's kind of bad, but he's kind of good, and he's trying to find the map, and he's trying to use eons to his advantage, all that stuff. It was weird. The second episode was interesting. but like not in a good way. If that makes any sense. We're just gonna pop right to episode 3 now, because that next episode 3 was Sky Hard, which is a reference to Die Hard, and Kaboom was a main player in this episode, which I really liked. But the only thing is, at the beginning they win this award, and they want to award this like their 10th or 11th time winning it, and they got really confident. Introduced a new villain, Bombshell, got a speaking role in it. So Bombshell was very interesting added to it. They ended up going to doing all these weird little, challenges? Chaos gave it to him. You don't realize it's Chaos until right at the end, spoiler. But he's a pirate. He becomes a pirate, and they do a bunch of challenges. Spyro was left at the academy trying to figure out where everything was in the wall. Kaboom, as I said, was a major part of this. He still has this weird talking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was weird because the episode's called Sky Hard, yet Arnold was not in Die Hard. So I'm thinking that's what it was about. Good little episode. This one was probably one of the best one thus far, like what I've watched. I thought it was really good. There was the weird little challenges they had to do in between, and Kaboom could have just, fixed everything. They had riddles and stuff, which was really cool. And then, I forget what the end of the episode goes, but like, it was kind of, it was okay. But then we get to episode 4, A Traitor Among Us. This is the episode that proved that everyone is stupid. Like, I hate saying that, but every character was so dumb this episode. Every one of them, even Spyro, like, all the characters in this episode were dumb. Because Eon gets a beard sense, I don't know, he gets a beard sense and is like, there's a mole in our midst! And they're like, oh my gosh, who could it be? And then they start blaming each other. So Eruptor and Chaos, or Cassandra, go off on this big adventure, and they end up in this giant, like, fight club thing, and they gotta fight each other, and they fight a squirrel at one point. Their side plot is weird. But in the Academy, Jetvac, Stealth Elf, and Pop Fizz are blaming each other, saying they're the mole, yet there's a black Spyro right there who just appeared out of nowhere, who's kind of suspicious, and they're like, I think it's each other, you were the mole the whole time. Why would they be the mole after 3 seasons? Like, you can't be that dumb. And then, the killer of this episode that made this episode so dumb was when Eon comes at the end, he's like, oh, made a big mistake, there was an actual physical mole in the building, sorry, read into it wrong, and I was like, how am I supposed to trust you with this? It was so dumb. Like, an actual physical mole in Skylanders Academy, and he's like, oh, sorry for getting you all hyped up and stuff, and then they were like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do now? So weird. Actually, for real, one of the weirdest episodes. We'll go right to episode 5. In Like Flynn, Flynn's debut. I like Flynn's debut. He's very cocky, very arrogant. That's what I like about Flynn. He's just cocky the whole time. He kept saying he was the greatest pilot in all of Skylands, and he was not really good at it. He was not proving his worth and all that. Not really much to say about the episode. Good little debut of Flynn. He appears in a couple more episodes and all that stuff. Really enjoyed it. It was pretty good. Like, that was a pretty good one. It gave a good way to introduce Flynn. Because, I mean, there's not a lot of new characters introduced in this one. Sounds like my landlord's kid is listening to his music again. You could probably hear it. I'll be shocked if you can't. Not much I can say about this episode. I enjoyed it. Very, very simple way to introduce Flynn. But the next episode is definitely my highlight of the entire series. The best episode. Weekend at Eon's is a reference to Weekend at Bernie's. If you guys don't know that movie, it's a little gruesome. A guy dies, and 2 people, like, have him, they take the body and they act like he's not dead. So, like, he's going out and dancing and meeting girls and stuff, and he's actually dead. And it's, like, the weirdest thing. So, with this episode, right in the beginning, Food Fight, interestingly, shoots a tomato towards Dark Spyro so he can put it on his sandwich. Yep. Hits Eon and knocks him out cold. And there was a really funny part at the end of the episode. Pop Fizz comes, he's like, I can understand gibberish. And Eon goes, oh, and he's like, he said no. I'm just like, it's like, that was good. So the whole concept is there's an inspector showing up, like a health inspector, to the building. And if they don't pass, Skylander Academy gets shut down, obviously. So what they do is they get Sprocket to take Jetpack and Spyro and literally shrink them down and put them into Eon's body. Now, this is when the main plotline of the episode gets in there. Spyro found this cube. And supposedly inside of this cube is the map to the Archean Fist. Which is interesting. The Archean Fist is the main thing about this, or the Archeon Fist, sorry, as they call it. So that's the main plotline. So he tries to he gets his body, and the whole time he's trying to get Eon to open it for him. Because he tries to get into the vault with Eon. He eventually gets into the vault by using Eon's password, which is his favorite nursery rhyme, Little Miss Muppet. He somehow gets in there. He gets that box, but he can't open it. He can't figure out how to open it. So he's like, oh, maybe if I use Eon's magic. So he takes over Eon. So pretty much, Jetpack controls one side of the body, Spyro controls the other, and while they have the Spectre, he's trying to open up this box by using all these magical powers, and they barely pass with like a 56%, which is not good. And if they were in college, they would fail, because you need 65. Great episode. This was the best, in my opinion. Out of all the episodes this season, this was my personal favorite, just because it was so good. There was a lot of humor involved, and Eon was fighting with himself a lot, but it was actually Jetpack and Spyro fighting, so, and they both controlled an eye, so like one I'd be going like this, and they'd be fighting, they'd be turning around and stuff. It was the best episode of this season. After that is Road Rage. This is the episode where Stealth Elf and Cassandra have to go on like a side quest or something. So what happens is Strikor appears and he's like, hey, Spyro, you should make Stealth Elf evil. And he's just like, okay. So this is when he's starting to revert back to regular Spyro, because I guess the real side of him, since it's still inside of him, comes out, and he's trying to help him and all that. So he thinks about it, and he goes and takes a wristband, her little bracers that she has, or bracelets that Stealth Elf has, and he goes and makes it evil. And the episode happened to revolve around Mother's Day, and this is the first episode that, the first time Chaos and Cassandra haven't been together for Mother's Day, which is a little sad if you think about it, because she's always been a mom. What else happens? So, Stealth Elf gives the bracelet to Cassandra as a Mother's Day gift and makes Cassandra evil. And she goes wild. Like, the mood swing she has in this episode is crazy, because it converts for a bit, and then she goes back to normal. They get into a big old fight at one point, then Spyro appears and knocks the bracelet off of her. And Stealth Elf was just like, okay. And this is when the seeds start playing of Stealth Elf being like, there's something weird going on. Like, how did Spyro know that she was evil, or where we were, and how to stop it? Because when he went to attack her, he went straight for her bracelet and knocked it off. So Stealth Elf started to get suspicious. This episode, too, had a great side story with Chaos. Chaos read a newspaper saying that he was like a buffoon and an idiot and all this stuff, so he goes to a news place to confront him, and he notices the stock of their newspaper goes up whenever he does something dumb, so he decides to invest in it, and then he blows the place up. So, and then they're like, oh yeah, since you own a piece of it, you're going to have to help pay for it, and he's just like, oh, okay. So this is a good episode, too. It started planting the seeds for later on, which the next episode, oops, what did I do? Okay, there we go, son. So, out of this, by the way, somehow in this point, I might have missed it, I probably did. Chaos somehow got the Doom Raiders back, which was Chompy Mage, Chef Pepperjack, Dreamcatcher, and Wolfgang. And the whole time, Glumshanks is with Strikor. So, he's not with him for this whole thing. This episode, Jetpack waltzes on into a place, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And Eon's vaporized. He's just dust on the ground. And we're like, okay. So the three main suspects were knocked out cold outside of his room, which was Eruptor, Spyro, and Stealth Elf. Which happens with this episode is he confronts the three of them. He just has he also has their stories. Eruptor's been watching too many horror movies, so he's scared of everything. Spyro, Stealth Elf 100% believes it was Spyro because of everything that led to it. Spyro backs it up because he was a janitor for the day because he got in trouble. And it ends up that Eruptor came around the corner and knocked both of them out. And that's what happened. So who did it? So Jetpack is walking away mind control, and they don't go any more into detail about it. I would think he was sleepwalking maybe, but Eon was like, oh, hello, and he appears in like a robe or something, and he was spraying some bug spray, and it did something. I don't know. This episode was a weird one. It was the definition of a filler episode. It was just like, hey, I got nothing else to talk about, so let's do that. So that's what it was. So then we have episode... Sorry. My phone just went off. Then we have episode 9, Days of Future Crash. This was where the whole thing is supposedly with that cube that he got, the Wumpa Islands has the answer. Interesting enough. So they go to the future, or they go to the past, to meet up with Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot's in another dimension, obviously. So Eruptor and Spyro go back in time. They find Crash. They try to talk to him and like say what's with the thing, and then someone gets sent back to the future, and Crash comes with him, and it affects the whole thing. When they get sent to a parallel universe where Glumshanks rules Skylands, and Chaos and Cassandra are good guys. And Glumshanks captured all the Skylanders except for Eruptor and Spyro. So they save him, they stop Glumshanks, Chaos takes over, and he's good, and he starts ruling the land with good. But they gotta go back to their normal time. And they get back, and Eruptor's like, oh my god, I didn't ask Crash any of these questions and all this. It was weird. It was a very weird episode, but I really liked it with the whole side story thing, because that one clip where they go into the future where Chaos is good leads to something later on in one of the episodes, so I really like that one too. After that, we have Off to the Races. When I saw this pop up, I was stoked because I thought Pendergast was going to be in it, and Pendergast is one of my favorite NPCs. It wasn't. We had some guy with a weird announcer guy. He sounded like Norm Macdonald. So, correct me if I'm wrong. I know Jap is in on who all the characters are, so he can correct me on that one. It's a race, a sky race. So Chaos is in the race, and Cassandra's like, oh, if he loses, then maybe he won't have any money, and he'll have to come back to his mom. And I'm like, interesting plot. So, they join the race. Flynn's driving along with Jetvac, and they're doing their whole, like, I can do this, but I can do this. And they're, like, fighting each other, really, to get down to like see who's in charge. So Flynn was like, we gotta work fast, if everyone works faster, we'll be the fastest, blah blah blah. And Jetpack's like, oh, if you take your time and enjoy what you're doing. So they had two different motives and all that stuff. The biggest plot of this one is around the end of the episode. Spyro goes down to get a lemon screwdriver, and Strykor appears, and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you helping them? And he's like, you know what, I gotta tighten my grip. And he tightens his grip and makes Spyro just pure evil. Stealth Elf comes down, notices it. Stealth Elf is like, oh my god, you're working with Strykor, because she sees Strykor and Dark Spyro. And Spyro attacks her. They get in this huge scuffle. And eventually, Spyro gets like knocked out of the way or something. Chaos wins the race, by the way. But the main part of this was right at the end. She walks up to the crew, and she's just like, so, Spyro's bad. I knew it all along. And we're just like, boom. So I thought this was the last episode because I forgot that Skylanders has an extra like 2 or 3 episodes they always had to the season. So I thought it was the end. I'm like, okay, we're ending it off on that. But then another one came. I'm like, oh right, there's more. So that was a good episode. It sucks that Pendergast was not part of the race, but nothing I can do about that. Go to the next episode of Split. It's they go to the Fire Viper lair because they need the venom of a Fire Viper to convert Spyro back from the darkness. This was a very weird episode because they went to the Fire Viper pit. Hugo makes his pretty much one and only appearance this whole thing and saves them, which you don't believe, but he's not scared of the Fire Vipers, but he's afraid of sheep still. Makes no sense. I don't know. They happen to go down. There's a really funny moment with one of the Fire Viper's kid. They're like, we're going to get you ready for breakfast, and we'll be ready. We're going to eat breakfast as a family. He's like, no, I'm just going to grab an energy drink on the way to school. And they're just like, what? You have to eat breakfast, but I'm not hungry. And it was like very relatable because kids are like that. And like, we're going to sit down and we're going to eat breakfast like a family. And I'm like, okay, relatable. Very good episode, very funny. When they finally got back and they gave it to Spyro, and boom, his shadow or his Dark Spyro comes out of him, and regular Spyro comes back, and they fight. Obviously, like what else are you gonna do, right? You're gonna fight your Dark Self. Spyro wins. Spyro goes back to normal. Yay! Now they gotta go figure out what's going on because when this happened, during the races, he happened to open up the cube because what you needed was a pure heart to open it. And since he was fighting the darkness, he became a pure heart and he opened it up. Chaos found it, goes to deliver it to his dad. Hey, Strikor, here you go, buddy, take this. He's like, cool, don't need you anymore. Sends him off to a submarine underneath the water to kill him. Brutal, I know. Which leads to our last two episodes, the Raiders of the Lost Ark Part 1 and 2. Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's a Indiana Jones episode. So I'll go through this one kind of fast because it was 2 episodes, it was Part 1 and 2 episodes. Don't know why they did Part 1 and 2, they should have just done like a full hour episode of it. So Glumshakes finds Chaos, goes down, rescues him from the thing, they had a big fight, and now it's split between 3 enemies. So the final battle leads to Spyro and the Skylanders trying to stop Chaos from destroying the Core of Light. Along with that, it was not 3 battles, only 2 battles. Along with that, Cassandra and Eon are fighting Strikor. So they happen to beat Strikor. Eon gives some of his powers to Cassandra. They end up beating him and pushing him back into the realm where he came from. There's like, God, I hope this is it. They discuss something, and you kind of like, she says something about, we need to know Chaos's past, and we're like, oh, okay. During this whole thing, you go to meet up with Chaos, and Crash Bandicoot comes in, and he's like, whoa, what a cool robot! And this is where I say, they should not have given Crash Bandicoot a voice, because I don't like his weird Australian voice. I hate that. I hate that. That's the one thing I'm taking from this. They shouldn't have given Crash Bandicoot a voice, because he doesn't talk anyways. So he's standing there having a full-on conversation, talking Australian, then Coco pops up beside him. I'm like, oh, Coco's in this. Alright. And Coco doesn't really do much. She appears with a rocket launcher thing, defeats these 2 Archean robots with it, saves them, and then it gets down to the big moment. So here is your major, major spoiler. If you don't want Season 3 to end on a spoiler, this is it. So Chaos is about to destroy the Core of Light, and Eon and Cassandra appear, and there's like, listen, we got to tell you something. I'm your father. So Eon and Cassandra are Chaos's father, so they got together and gave birth to Chaos. He takes off his helmet to reveal the emblem. He notices they put 2 and 2 together. At this time, before that, Pop Fizz had thrown a boomerang and it missed. And the thing about boomerangs, they come back. So he's standing there with his arm up in the air, being like, I'm going to destroy the Core of Light. And the boomerang comes back and hits his arm. And he starts falling down. Eon runs up, makes this gigantic shield, falls down, giant explosion, Chaos goes flying, Eon and the Archean robot vanish. All that's left of Eon is his helmet. So the Skylanders are just like, oh my god, he's gone. And Cassandra's just like, he's gone. Straight up. So they fly back on Flynn's ship. They decide to make Cassandra the leader of the Skylander Academy, which is weird. We'll get to the last big part here now. Right at the end, Spyro goes to mope in his room, and Eon appears behind him. He's just an entity, though. He's just a ghost. So or like a holograph or something like that. He appears behind him, and Spyro's like, "Ah, it's you, you're not dead!" And he's like, "No, I didn't die, I'm just in another dimension. And I figured out how to telepathically make myself appear in front of you." It was interesting because he goes, "I know where your family is." So this is now the big part of this season now, because unfortunately, Skylanders Academy Season 4 is not confirmed. So this could be a way of killing off Spyro from the franchise or continuing it on. Because at the end of this, Spyro says, yes, let's go find my family. So he flies off with Eon. They fly off into the sunset. Spyro goes, wait, I gotta do one thing first. And he makes a smoke signal in the air, and then they fly off. So this could be a way of killing off Spyro. Or killing off this series, unfortunately, which sucks. Or this could be a whole thing where there's a subplot with Spyro going to find his family and the Skylanders in the Academy, because you cut to the last scene, Stella goes, hey guys, looks up, and it says Skylanders Forever with the smoke screen that he made. So that was pretty cool, and that's how it ends. So overall, this was a good season. It had a lot of good ups and downs. I feel like a lot of it was filler, where the main thing was Spyro trying to open up this box. And a lot of the stuff was kind of like the side plots that didn't really add to the end. But it started getting bigger once, was it episode 7? Yeah, episode 7, Road Rage, was when the seeds started getting planted to lead up to the last episode. So it was a good season. It was a good, like, oh, this is pretty good. I do like the fact that I did watch the whole thing in one binge, because I feel like I would have lost track throughout the whole thing. Excellent season in my opinion. I feel like this was a awesome season for season 3. If we do have a season 4, I think they're going to be able to build out this really well. Overall, out of 10, I give this season a solid 7.5 out of 10. There was, as I said, a lot of filler, and that's the only reason it wouldn't get any harder than that, but the story really built really well. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Like, straight up, you don't really need to watch any of the other seasons to just pop into this one. I feel like if I had a friend just watch episode 1, they will kind of understand it, but not in a way. If you're a fan of Skylanders, you'll watch it and be fine with it. But overall, the season was really good. It's got a good medium at the end now that if it weren't to continue, that it would end and it would be fine. Or if we get a season 4, it'll add on to it. So overall, really liked it. 7.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you have watched it, leave a comment below. We'll discuss it in the comments. Definitely be talking to my friends about it, like Jap and maybe Brylander and P. Diddy. Probably watch it. Portal Master's probably going to be doing a video of it very soon too. If it's not already up. I know Jap just uploaded one, so might watch this after this one. But yeah, I'm excited. If there's a season 4, it's going to be great. But we're going to have to wait another year, I guess. And I binged it all in one day. Oh, and I got to study. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion. So leave your opinions, thoughts, theories, all that stuff in the comments below. I would love to read it. I'll reply to a bunch of them as long as they're A-okay. So thank you guys so much. This is the first of the 4 big Skylander stuff that's coming up in the next couple months. So we got this, Ring of Heroes next month. We got the Spyro Remake Trilogy in November, and the Omnibus, or whatever it's called, the comic book in December. So we got a lot of good Skylander stuff coming. This is number 1, so go support the series. Go, if you have Netflix, or if you don't have Netflix, get Netflix and watch it, because the more you watch, the more we're going to get a season 4. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for all the love and support. I hope you guys enjoyed Skylander Survivor yesterday, and the mini lock yesterday. I'm planning on uploading this Saturday. God, I hope I do. But as always, I bid you farewell.